Hey guys, I'm Edtech and welcome back to Newton School. In this video, we'll continue with our built-in functions video. So in the last video, we covered a few functions, and in this video, we'll continue by covering some more built-in functions in Python that will help you, write code. So before we go into it, a quick introduction to Newton School. It is a platform which prepares you for your career in tech. So they have courses designed for freshers, working professionals, and also for women with no tech background. They'll first train you for 6 months, help you become an amazing full stack developer, and they have a network of 300 great companies who hire from Newton School. So after the training is done, they'll ensure that you get placed in the best companies in the country. And the best part is that they have a pay after placement program. So you don't have to pay anything until and unless you are placed with a minimum 5 lakh CTC. So, introduction to the Newton School Launchpad. It is an initiative taken by Newton School for people who want to start coding from scratch and learn the basics of different programming languages for absolutely free of cost. So, this video would also be available as part of the Launchpad section of Newton School, where you can practice several quizzes and assignments related to course. What I'll do is I'll quickly go over to newtonschool.co, and here if you do not already have an account you can create one, but since I already have one, I'll just log into my account. Once I'm in my account, I'll go over to the playground section and go down to the algorithm playground. You can create a new playground or use an existing one. It's totally up to you. And what I want to do is I want to start with a few functions today that we'll be covering in this video. If you haven't already, you can watch the previous video in which we covered the few built-in functions available in Python. And so there is this function in Python called evaluate, which basically lets you evaluate a specified expression. So if the expression is legal Python statement, it will be executed. So let me say, like, there is a variable called expression, exp for short, which has a Python expression stored in it. So let us say print 25, right? So this is a Python expression. This is valid Python syntax, as in you have the print function and you're passing in a value that is of type int and needs to be printed to console. So you have this expression saved as a string in this variable. Now I can type in evaluate which is the function that we are talking about, and pass in this variable called exp to it. Now if I'll run this program, what would happen is you will see 25 printed out to console. So what basically is happening here is this evaluate function takes in this variable which has this valid Python statement saved as an expression to it. So it has this print 25, and when you'll run this program, this print 25 would be evaluated and it would print out 25 to console, and that is what is happening here. So how can you use this in your Python program? Now if there is a Python program that takes in let us say like a Python statement from the user, so you can use the evaluate function to execute that Python statement. It would only work if the expression is a legal Python syntax, right? So there is also this function called execute, which basically executes a block of code. How this works is basically execute, and you can have a block of code here. Type in name equals to Aditya, right? And And instead of using evaluate, which was working for one statement, we can use the function execute and pass in the expression. So if I run this program right now, you will notice like Aditya is printed out to console. Now how is this working? This execute function takes in the exp variable, which has this block of code save inside it. So this is our first statement, name is equals to Aditya. So name is a variable, we are assigning Aditya to it. And then we have a dash n, which is basically for the next line, it is the new line character. And we have the print name statement. So print takes in this name variable that we have assigned here and prints it out to console, and that is why we are having this Aditya printed to console. So execute is used to evaluate the specified Python code. It is used for block of code, and the execute function accepts large blocks of code, unlike the evaluate function which only accepts a single expression. So that is the difference between these two built-in functions. Okay, so the next function that I want to take up is this function called id. So what the id function does is basically returns a unique id for the specified object. So all objects in Python have their own unique id, and the id is assigned to an object when it is created. So the id is the object's what is this id? It's basically the object's memory address and will be different each time you run the program. So except for some objects that have a constant unique id, like integers from -5 to 256, etc. So let us like try running this program once, as in to check how this basically works. And so there is this list of names, which is basically not a list of names, but a tuple of names that would have these names in it. All right. Okay, so that is a basic tuple, and let me check its like id. So I'll type in id, and this would be a function, so I can pass in the names variable to it, and there we have it, right? I can print this uid, right? And let me try running this program once, and you will get this big number printed out to console. So this is the idea of the names tuple object, and how this works is basically it's the object's memory address, and that is what we are getting printed to console. Let me just try running this again once, and you'll notice a small change because this id would update. It doesn't have to be constant each time you run the program. Only for some numbers it's unique. So that is it about the id built-in function in Python. And we have like covered a few functions in the previous video. We have taken up a few built-in functions in Python, and that is what we are doing before we end this series complete Python playlist, to take up these built-in functions, because I believe they aren't as much talked about whenever you are following along a tutorial. So you need to not necessarily use these built-in functions, but not particularly to use these built-in functions, but you need to have an idea what all functions are there available to you, so that you can optimize the process. As in like we discussed about the absolute function in the first video, which if you haven't seen, you can watch the video. And it was like either if there was a situation where you needed only the numerical part, so you can use that function, right, if you know about it. And all these functions, id and the different other functions that we have taken up in this video, if there is a need to get the idea of an object, you can use these functions only after you know about them. So it's very necessary to talk about them, and we'll continue with the built-in functions in Python in the next video. So if you haven't already, do subscribe the channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the notification bell icon so you're notified when we upload the next video. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm Aditya Thakur. I'm an instructor here for Python, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. The link would be in the description. And yeah, thank you.